Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and yes, we're back on with the Apricot XEN-S Restoration. I've been thinking about this problem with the real-time clock, and one of my viewers actually commented, and it's something I was thinking as well. That IC, which I keep calling the clock generator IC, I'm now wondering, is that a 74HC14, which is a Schmidt trigger? Now, what I've got in my mind is that basically that little transistor that I had to remove while I was doing the repair work, and we've got the bins being collected right as I start filming. You know, it's pretty typical, isn't it? Basically, that transistor is being used to drive that crystal. So that's a little crystal oscillator. So we've got a transistor driving that crystal. The IC it's going into isn't a clock generator. It's a Schmidt trigger, which is basically it smooths whatever signal's going in there and makes it more constant to be fed out to another IC. Now that IC feeds straight into the Chips and Tech chips IC, which is part of the actual motherboard's chipset. Unfortunately, I've found basically data sheets for every other chips IC on that board, apart from that one. I believe Intel have it in their archive. I'm just trying to see whether I can get access to it. Like I say, I managed to download off a Russian website all the data sheets for all the other chips technologies ICs on that board. It was quite interesting actually, because those chips ICs were actually intended for a 286 motherboard. Apricot basically must be pushing the technology somewhat, because in all the data sheets it always references AT286 processors, not 386 processors. But it is rated up to a 16 megahertz processor, which is what this computer is running. Anyway, plan of action. What I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take that IC off the board. We'll use the hot air, I think, to remove that IC. I'll power the board up with the IC on, and we'll see if the crystal keeps oscillating like it was. If it is, then that proves it that it's that transistor circuit that's doing all that work. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what's happening actually. Especially considering it runs off the 3 volts from the battery backup. I mean, it's going to take virtually no current at all to make that little oscillator work, so that'd run for years and years and years off a 3 volt source. As where if it's trying to power that IC as well, again, that IC will be 5 volt logic, the battery's only 3 volts. There'd have to be something weird going on there, and I don't think the battery backup would last that long. So, like I said, I'm going to pull that IC off, and if that still runs, that proves our point. But what I can also do, it means I can check some of the traces actually underneath that IC, because we could have an issue there. Then, do I put that IC back, or do I get a HC74? Sorry, a 74HC14, and put that in there? And well, I suppose I could try that. If I can identify where the grounds and the 5 volts are on that IC, and it lines up the same with the 74HC14, we can try it in there and see if we make any difference or not. So anyway, we'll go to the bench, I'll get the hot air set up, and we can have a look at taking that IC off. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we're all set up. I'm just using this little netbook to display the image from the microscope, because I do find it incredibly useful. First thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of Kapton tape just down this side of the IC. Basically just shielding that crystal, because I don't want that crystal to get the full blast of the heat from the heat gun. He says this looking round, looking for the roll of Kapton tape he's just gone to the other room to pick up. Be back in a second. Sorry folks, seriously, I'm losing it. It was next to me. Anyway, let's put a little bit of Captain tape just next to the crystal there, because like I said, I want to just keep the direct heat off it. And that transistor, really, we're going to be aiming the heat mostly away from there anyway, because I don't want to get the ISA slots too hot either. Really, ideally, I should be using, I've got somewhere some aluminium tape for this. It's absolutely perfect for this job. Unfortunately, I've just spent the best part of an hour looking for it. I don't know where the hell I've done with it. Right, I think we're in here now. Yeah, there we go. So we'll have to make do with this Captain tape. There we go. We won't need much. I'll put my anti-static back on before I start handling the board. I'll just stick. Basically just to shield. I do apologise, by the way, if you see my hands. I've spent a couple of hours bitumening a roof today. This is after like the third or the fourth time I've washed them, but they're not too bad, I don't suppose. Right, okay, so that's just protecting them. We will add a little bit of flux to that IC. Like I said, the first thing I want to do is remove that IC so we can have a look round underneath it. Like I said, I do have a HC14 that we could possibly put there, but first things first, let's take that off and let's have a good inspect round. So we're going to use some hot air for this. It should be fairly easy to remove, to be fair. Just warm round it. We should be able to start seeing the solder going. Go in that now, nearly there. There we go. That's off the board. Right, let's see. Do we have any damage there? We lost a pad there, I don't know. Let's just, I don't think we have actually. Get the soldering iron up. Let's just go in and have a quick look here. Oh no, they're fine. We'll need a little bit of a clean up, but they're okay. So actually, it doesn't look too bad under there. I think what we'll do, we'll get a little bit of solder braid. We'll clean them pads up with a bit of solder braid. And then we can get down and have a proper inspect of that area. In fact, the way that them couple of pins in that corner there, the way they looked a bit dry when they come up, I wonder if we perhaps didn't have a good connection, actually due to the corrosion under there. Anyway, we'll have a bit of a clean up now. Like I said, we'll get some solder braid on there. get rid of that Captain tape now anyway, we don't need it anymore. Get it out of the way. There we go. Pull that off. And we'll just go in here and just soak up, basically just cleaning the pads up like that. Well, we've detached that repair wire from before, but never mind, we can sort that again. I wasn't 100% happy with it anyway. Let's we'll get it stuck to that trace now. Yeah, we have. I'll just get that off there. There we go. In fact, we need to find out where that goes again. I think it's we had it soldered there, didn't we? Oops. We got it. Yeah, we'll solder that down. In fact, we'll move it out of the way. We'll have a good clean up round there, and then we'll have a look at soldering that back. So let's have a look now. We'll get a bit of isopropyl and we'll give that area a clean up. And we can have a good inspect of them traces there. I've got my meter with its little fine pin probes. So we can test continuity and everything, but let's have a bit of a clean up in this area now so we can have a good look. Don't actually look too bad. Actually, now we've got the IC off, it looks considerably better. Do we have a break? I think it's just where it goes under the solder resist, that. Yeah, that looks pretty clean, really. So I'll get you a bit closer on the screen so you can see a bit better. There we go. It doesn't actually look bad at all now. If we look there, we can't see any lifted pads or anything. Oops, let's get that screen back up there. We haven't got any lifted pads I can see or anything. In fact, the traces under there, I can't really see anything untoward with them. We will obviously just double check everything is actually connected. Let's just get a continuity buzzer. So I can see we've got a oops. We've got a via there, haven't we? Now let's see. So that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. So those are all going to that via there, and that's all seems fine. We've got this pin, that trace there. Let's trace that back, see where that goes. And that one there. That's the one that had that small signal coming off it. That goes down, and now that's to this. That's that trace that is broken. But we know it's good to there now, so we know that if we join that bodge wire back on there, we'll be okay. Let's just make sure that this is connecting still to. I presume it goes to that via there. It looks like it. Let's make sure that's okay. Yep, that's okay. And we've got does that go from there, goes up to a wire over here, up here, and that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. And most of these, I believe, actually aren't used. It doesn't look like they're actually connected. So I'm beginning to believe this is indeed a Schmidt trigger. Now one of these will be ground, one will be 5 volts. So we've got the oscillator coming in here. Yeah. What I'll do, I'll just dig out the pin out for the the 74HC14, and we'll just see if it makes actually any sense in comparison with that. So back in a sec. Okay, I've got the pin out for a HC14 here, and this does kind of make sense. Now, bear with me here. I hope you can follow along with what I'm showing. Right. We take this pin here, so we've got, say we have a signal coming out there into the first part of the Schmidt trigger there, out again into the second Schmidt trigger there, because you've got 6 of them actually in this package, even though I think it's only using 3 of them. So out of it to there, so you've got a signal coming out which I think is going to drive the crystal. Then we've got a signal coming back in, basically here, which will be on pin 5 there, and then coming back out pin 6, which is what's going over to that Chips and Tech IC there. And you remember how we had a really strong waveform on these, but on that output pin there it was really, really weak. So this is what I'm wondering what's actually faulty, and we actually just do have a faulty 74HC14. What I'm just going to quickly do, we can see here now, we know we've got a ground point there, and we've got a VCC there. So if we can just check on the board, and if basically we've got ground there and we've got VCC there, there's a good chance that it is indeed a 74 HC14 that should be in there. Like I say, I've got one that I salvaged off a board. We could indeed try it. I don't think we'd actually blow anything up doing that. I don't think it'd short anything out looking how this has actually been wired. So let's have a quick look with the continuity buzzer and just see. Well, first thing we'll try is this pin down here, which I think should be ground. So we'll go to something that I think is going to be a good ground here. Let's find a good ground. Now I'm going on to the pin of the casing of the parallel port there, but I don't know if that's going to be is actually a good enough ground, because I'm getting quite a high resistance there between that pin and ground. So perhaps it's not. Let's try somewhere else for a ground. I think that should be a ground there. Ah, I know I've got a ground here, right. And no, that I don't think actually does go to ground. We've got a really high resistance between that pin and ground there. Right, let's see where we can. I'm pretty sure we're going to have 5 volts, and see we've got 5 volts here. Again, I don't think we have. I should have 5 volts on one of these pins here, because that's what goes up to the, again, nothing. Right, so that there is 5 volts. So whatever this IC is, the bottom pin there is the 5 volts pin. Now, so I wonder if this top pin here is ground. No. Let's see if we can find which one the ground is. I don't think any of them are actually connected apart from that one at the top there. See if we can find a better ground, because this board is quite tarnished still in places, so actually getting a good ground isn't always necessarily easy. See if we can find which is ground over here. Right. Right, we know we've got a good ground there. So let's try. So we know that's 5 volts there. That should be the signal. Be any of them. Not that one. There it is, that's the ground. I think. I think that's me just making a really poor. Although it seems to be charging a capacitor up there, that's weird. So it looks like we're charging a capacitor up there. Now that should be ground. But no, we seem to be charging a capacitor. So I can't find anything that's a direct path to ground on that IC. This is really weird. So perhaps I am wrong and that is some strange custom timing IC. And these could be connected. No, I think these are just dead pads. Yeah, that's it. But it obviously goes through a capacitor. That is really, really, really weird. But that is definitely not the pin out of the HC14. So as we can see there, ground there is where we're getting 5 volts, and VCC is where we're getting some form of ground connection. That is really, really odd. So bear with me just folks for a little bit while I just have a quick think about this. Okay folks, I've been doing a little bit of probing round, and what I've done, basically I've confirmed that this bottom pin there, that is ground. It's definitely ground, because if I go between that and there's one of the EPROMs up here, one of the 27C256s, I know that the bottom pin on that is ground. If I go to it, we've got a perfect ground connection there. What I can't do is find out where the 5 volts is coming from, and I'm wondering if it's been. It should be on this top pin here. If we're indeed right, and this is a HC14, or basically whether it's one of them. That's what I've got as a replacement if we do indeed decide it is one of them and we can stick one in. That's what I've got to put in there. I don't think it's actually going to cause an issue even if I'm wrong. I don't think we're going to blow anything up by doing it. The ground's definitely in the right place. It's just that 5 volts that's stumping me a little bit. But I think we might bite the bullet and just actually try it. But what I want to do before that, I want to see whether that crystal's still oscillating, because we've got the battery backup connected up to it, and even without that chip in, if I'm correct and that isn't a clock generation chip and it is just, like I said, a Schmidt trigger, and it's actually using that transistor to keep the crystal oscillating, then even with that chip out of the circuit, that crystal should still be oscillating. So I've got my cheap and cheesy little pocket oscilloscope here. I'll stick that there so we can see it. Right, and let's see if that crystal is still oscillating even without that chip there. Anything at all? No. Oops. Just make sure that the batteries are actually connecting and working. So without that chip in place, we've got absolutely no activity on that crystal, which makes me wonder actually then, without actually powering the board up, I'll switch that off so we'll save my battery. I'll pull that out of the way. Without actually powering the board up with the power supply, I wonder if we put that 74HC14 in place and connect the batteries back up. If the crystal starts oscillating again and the crystal starts working, we might actually be onto something. That might be the next port of call actually. Yeah, I think let's do that. I'll pull one of the batteries out so we haven't got power going through it while we're soldering to it. And what I think we'll try and do, because I'm still not 100% sure this is the correct component, but I don't think we're going to cause any harm by trying it. I don't think we're actually going to like blow anything up by trying it. I don't even know whether this works. It's salvaged off a it is salvaged off a scrap board, but like I said, it's worth a quick try, isn't it? I'll get that in place and we'll just tack one end down there. We'll tack one in there. I can let go of it now. Get a little bit more solder on my end of my soldering iron. Not much. We'll go in with a little bit of flux and put a little bit of flux on. I don't need too much. It's not very well secured, that actually. Where's my dental probe just gone? Because that will be better than the oh, it's here. Silly son, I left it behind me. Right, I can use that just to gently hold down the chip. All the pins look okay there. We'll just, that's better. That's held now. We'll just go in and we'll just solder it in place. Okay, that's that side done. I can just solder the other side in place now. This is going to be a little bit tricky for me because my the wire on my soldering iron really could do with being about 12 inches longer than it is. Just go in with a little bit more solder on that. There we go. That's not looking too bad. A little bit, in fact I'll just put a little bit of extra flux on there and I'll just go back in and reflow those, because they're I'll tell you what, this computer and this software isn't as nice as just what's comes with XP on my the other system that I use this camera with. They're both 800 by 600 images, but it does look a hell of a lot clearer on my other one. Give the soldering iron a quick clean. This isn't the best bit either, it's a little on the large side for what we're doing. But it is just about doable. There we go. So that is the 74HC14, a definite 74HC14 actually put on the board. I'll connect the battery back up and get the little scope and just let the little scope boot up. That there so you can see it. Oops, I'll put that there so you can see it. And we'll connect. Can you still see that? No, you can't because it's slipped down. Let me slip you down as well so you can see it. There we go. And let's see whether we're getting any activity now on that crystal. No. Getting nothing there at all. Like I said before, was well, you saw this what was getting for. Let's try on the chip itself. There's nothing there. Right, just for an experiment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that chip off and we'll put the original mystery IC back on there and we'll see if that makes the crystal start to oscillate again. And oh, hang on. Well, no, it won't make any difference. I haven't reconnected that that bodge wire down here, but I honestly don't think that would make any difference at all. I suppose we can, just for completeness, just quickly reconnect that where it went to that connection there. Yeah, what I'll do, I'll just quickly do that and then we'll just do a quick test again. Okay, I've just quickly reattached that wire there. As you can see, that's reattached onto the trace that had come off. I don't think this is going to make any difference at all. Like I said, what I think I'm going to have to do is whip that IC back off and I'll try putting the original IC back on there. I don't think we're going to have any difference. No. Nope. Not doing anything. That's just crap on the signal. There's nothing there. Nope. Right, so what I'll do is I'll whip that 74 HC14 off there, and like I said, we'll stick the mystery IC back on. I'll clean all the legs up on it and we'll see if that'll make the crystal oscillate again. But unfortunately, like I said, if that chip is faulty, I don't know what it is. I can't find any reference to it anywhere. So we could we could have problems. We could just have to accept the fact that the real-time clock's not going to work on this computer. Right, so back in a sec. Okay, as you can see, I've got the original IC back in. I haven't bothered cleaning up around it, but I have reconnected that wire there, and that's not a good sign straight away of me touching that. But as you can see, unfortunately, the crystal's not doing anything. It's dead. Now, it could be that we actually damaged the crystal with the heat from desoldering. That is a possibility, but there's nothing. So there's nothing there at all now. Just make sure the batteries are indeed making reasonable contact. I do need to get a new battery holder for the batteries. But no, we're not seeing any activity there at all, are we? Like I said before, you saw before when we probed on the crystal there, we actually had the crystal responding, and there is absolutely nothing there. It could be that the transistors died. I think it's much more likely that it's the heat's actually damaged the crystal there. Now, I will have a hunt round my junk and see if I've got something with a suitable timing crystal on it. And we will just quickly try swapping out that timing crystal. We could even try, like I said, we could even try swapping out the transistor. Although I don't think the transistor is as likely to be at fault than the crystal is. Like I said, we're getting sweet FA there, unfortunately. So it could, like I say, it could be that we've actually damaged that crystal with the heat, because it was working with that IC on before. It could also be that by taking that IC off, we've ended up killing it. That is another possibility. I am edging more onto the fact of that crystal there, so I'll go and have a hunt in my junk and see what I've got, and see if we can perhaps just quickly swap that out. Okay, as you can see, I've swapped out the crystal. There's the original there. You can see it was looking pretty manky. I'm pretty certain this one I've put in should be a good replacement. It's from basically exactly the same position on another scrap motherboard. I also, for good measure, I actually swapped the transistor out. I did find another of the same CAN type 2N222 transistors. So I thought, just for good measure, I'd just swap the transistor out as well. But as we can see, unfortunately, when I probe, we have got absolutely no. Oh, let me get you down so you can see the screen. There we go. As you can see, we have got zero activity on that crystal. It's just not oscillating at all. So all I can surmise is that chip was on its last legs, taking it off the board, just saw it out. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's not a HC14 now. Oh, what's that we've got there? What was that there? I'm sure I just saw a signal coming on something there, but I don't know where it would have originated from. Just have a probe round again. No, I think it was just something spurious being picked up by the scope. Like I said, this is a super cheap, nasty little pocket oscilloscope. We're getting nothing there, are we? No. Unfortunately, I think we've actually probably made the situation worse. I will just connect it all back up to the back up to a screen and everything back in the other room, just so we can actually make sure the rest of the computer is actually still going to function. And unfortunately, I think we're just going to have to live with the fact that the real-time clock on this motherboard is just not going to work, unless of course we can find out, you know, exactly what that chip is. We just don't know. Like I said, we've given it a go that it was possibly a HC14, but we've tried something that should work there. Like I said, then again, I don't know whether this IC that we tried does indeed work. What I could do actually, I've got some breakout boards, so I could take that, I could fit it to a breakout board, I could then plug it into my Speedmaster and actually test it, and that would at least confirm whether that LS14 there works or not. And it would confirm that it's not an LS14 that's needed, or at least a HC14 that's needed on that board. I don't think it'll actually matter whether it's an LS14 or a HC14. All we need to have is a Schmidt trigger wired correctly, I think. I think that should be all we need to at least get a signal. It's a really simple circuit, it's just a clock timing circuit. It's just, like I said, we're definitely having problems here. If I had a schematic for this computer, or at least pinouts for some of these chips, if we knew exactly what that chip was, if I could find the data sheet for that monster there, that Chips and Tech monster there, it's the only one of the Chips and Tech chips on this board. I can't find any information for it whatsoever, and I have a feeling that might have something to do with the clock generation. It certainly takes a pin through that wire that we fixed the trace from to that chip from that chip there, which we know is definitely got to have something to do with the clock generation. But without schematics for the board, without the schematics for them chips, and indeed knowing exactly what that chip is, there's too many unknowns for me to really work on here. I think I'm just going to have to be happy. Like I say, we'll get this board set back up now, we'll just make sure the board's actually going to fire up, and then so in the next video we might have a look at seeing if we can perhaps sort out this floppy drive problem. I can live with the real-time clock not working. It's a bit of a pain trying to live with a non-working floppy drive. It's not impossible for what I'm going to use this computer for. I don't actually 100% need the floppy drive to work, but I'd rather spend more time trying to sort that problem out than this, which I'm peeing up the wall a little bit with, really. Like I said, I've got too many unknowns to really start to figure out what the issue is. So we'll be back in a second. We'll just make sure that the board still actually functions. Okay, we're set back up here. As you can see, basically we're set up in the most basic configuration we can. So I've not even got the keyboard connected. We've literally just got the motherboard, the power supply and a VJ input, just to see whether the computer actually still even fires up. So let's switch on. Okay, so the computer is actually still working to some extent. Obviously I think it's going to time, well it will time out now, because obviously like I said, it's not got a keyboard connected or anything. Keyboard failure, but the RAM's come up. Invalid configuration, obviously, because we've had the CMOS batteries disconnected. Seek failure, we haven't even got a floppy drive connected up. F1, well we can't do that because we haven't got a keyboard connected up. So what I'll do now, interestingly though, it didn't tell you about the clock not working. That's funny. What I'll do, I'll just set it back up with the keyboard, and I'll actually connect the hard drive and everything up to it, and we'll boot it up and just make sure everything still works, you know, as it did before. Like I said, I don't think we're going to have any luck with that CMOS, sorry, not the CMOS, that real-time clock, but it is not the end of the world. Like I said, we can live without a real-time clock. Like I said, the floppy drive, we can live without the floppy drive. The floppy drive would just be really nice to get working. Anyway, I'll get it set up and then we'll just have a little bit of a further check with it, so back in a sec. Okay, sorry about that folks. The battery in my camera died and I didn't quite see it. I was recording, the camera wasn't on. Anyway, as you can see, basically I've got everything connected back up as it was. So we've got the hard drive connected up, we've got a keyboard connected up and everything. And as you can see, it has booted fine from the SCSI hard drive. It did come up with the clock stopped error on start. In fact, I'll just do a quick Control-Alt-Delete so you can see what it's doing. Well, it basically looks like we've not lost anything, but we've not gained anything. See, we've still got the time of day clock stopped. It is seeking the floppy drive. I've not tried putting a disc in, but I can't expect that's made any difference whatsoever to it not reading discs. I will throw one in just for good measure, but we've got here, that'll do. But as you can see, like I say, it does boot. No problem. We go. Set up. You can see everything's working the way it should, like I say, apart from the fact that the clock's not running. It's saving all its settings. I've just went in before and just set these up, so we've got 1.44 mega A drive. No hard drive because we're using the SCSI controller. We've got the RAMs correct, VGA, EGA is correct. Everything's set there is absolutely right. Let's exit out of this, F10. But like I said, unfortunately, we'll just quickly try a floppy. It's not going to make any difference at all. I'll put a floppy I know works in. It's just going to do exactly what it was doing before, but no. There we go. See, not reading drive A. So we haven't, like I said, we've not gained anything, but we haven't lost anything. The computer still functions the way it did before. But yeah, we still don't have that real-time clock working. And as I was saying before, unfortunately, unless for some miracle schematic for this board turns up, or indeed we actually find out exactly what that part is it a real-time clock IC? If I could confirm it was definitely a 74HC14, I'd just order a brand new one, would stick it on and try. But like I said, I don't know. Is it something that we've just lost the voltage there? I might have to do some more testing before I completely give up on it. We'll do a little bit more testing on it. But then I really think I need to look at this floppy drive issue and see if we can get to the bottom of why it won't boot from a floppy disk. And it's not the onboard controller that's the issue, because I've disabled the onboard controller and we tried booting from an ISA floppy drive controller and we still had the same problem. It got exactly to the same point and same issues with the floppy. So I don't think it's related to the actual controller IC. I think it's related to something else. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now because this video's already gone on quite long, and like I said, we're getting nowhere fast with this project, but I am determined to get this computer into at least some usable order at some point. Like I said, I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you enjoyed this little update on the project. I think we might do something a little bit different for the next video. I had another little parcel come through from China the other morning, so we might have a quick look at that in the next video. So, like I said, I'm going to leave it there for now. Thanks for watching and goodbye.